A brief prologue to get you ready for the second part of our story, because this is indeed part 2 of our Tony Romo story that includes his wonderful relationship with his dear friend Jason Witten. And we pick up where we left off at the end of part 1 with undrafted rookie Tony Romo sitting on a shuttle bus with approximately 20 rows of seats as he heads to the rookie hotel. And then, right before the bus leaves, one more person gets on, a large man. And he comes and he sits down right next to Tony. They were the only 2 people on the bus. And here's how that exchange went.
And as he sits there, he's like sitting down, and just like, hey. He's like, hey. I'm like, play football. I'm assuming you play football, right?
We were on that shuttle bus, and we were the only 2 on the bus.
He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I play football. I'm like, oh, what position? And he's like, tight end.
I asked him, I said, you here for the camp, for the Cowboys camp? Yeah, I'm undrafted quarterback out of Eastern Illinois. And he said, what about you?
You get drafted then with Dallas? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a free agent, so I'm coming down the same thing. He's like, oh. And that's when I asked him, what college, what position? And he's like, tight end, Tennessee. Now, Witten, if you asked him, he'd tell you the story. He's thinking at that time, he's like,
I was a 3rd round pick. You probably should have known who it was, but.
How does this kid not know who I am? I played football at Tennessee. And he's thinking in his brain, he's like, I'm the 3rd round pick of the Dallas Cowboys. How the hell do you not know who I am? Kind of thing. He's like, I played every week on CBS. Did you not watch any of these games and everything? Which I didn't. But he's sitting there thinking that. And he's like, you're nobody. You can't, why? I can't even believe you're here. But
and you won't be here long.
Yeah, and that's obviously what everybody thinks at the time.
The awkward beginning of a wonderful friendship and an all-time Cowboys duo.
But that was our first time. And
did he ask you what position you played?
He did. He was being cordial and nice.
Sure.
But I offended him already right off the map.
Why not know who you were?
Yeah, but he was great.
Okay, so you sat uncomfortably close on the bus and you had no idea about this hotshot tight end from the SEC. So what happened next?
We have practice the next day, and we go back, and it's about 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'm like, we got to eat dinner. And we see like this little pizza place as we get there across the street or something. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go, probably grab a bite to eat or something. We got our first football practice the next day. And I said, you want to go across the street and just grab some pizza or something? And he's like, grab some pizza.
And I thought to myself, like, this is the biggest weekend of my life. Bill Parcells, first year, he's going to set the tone. The last thing I'm going to do is eat a pizza.
Tomorrow's like first practice in the NFL. Like, you just want to go eat pizza tonight and everything? I'm like, well, yeah, what else do people do? Like, do they not eat dinner the night before, like eating or like anything?
Here's Vice President of Player Personnel, Will McClay.
I remember them kind of going back and forth and seeing the relationship start.
It was just this perfect example of him so locked in for tomorrow. And my just mind frame of like, well, I'm going to go out there and do well. Like this isn't going to matter. Or like, you believe in yourself so much. I'm like, this isn't going to actually change. I was just a young kid, naive at the time. But
and kind of the freewheeling, everything is not as serious as Witten makes it. And then Witten saying, hey, man, there's boundaries and things that you have to go through. And winning is the most important thing. And helping Tony realize that, I think that's how the relationship and the marriage, so to speak, worked.
They just always had a cool little bond. And he was always the guy that Romo could go to, talking about Witten, whenever he felt like there was a sketchy situation. And so that bond just built over the years, and so they just kept working on it, and so it showed up in practice and it showed up in games.
I think we all have that friend, the one who is so different than us in so many ways, but oddly we are drawn to each other despite those differences. Maybe it ends up being a respect for your differences thing, I don't know. Oh, and that last new voice was Andre Gerard, Romo's center for more than 5 years and one of Tony's favorite teammates. But I do have one more question. Did you eat pizza or not?
No, we didn't. He talked me out of it. It was too important of a next day. He made me feel so bad. I was like, I guess we're going to eat chicken and broccoli tonight, and we're going to go to bed at 4 or 7 p.m.
And so it began, an undrafted kid QB from the Midwest who nobody knew, and a heralded tight end from the mighty SEC. They find a bond.
We started to build a relationship, and first it was just kind of like, we're green as can be, we're trying to survive out here, but then it became like, hey, what'd you think of that play? Or what would you have done on that play? Or, you know, when things started to unfold.
The key bonding point, both men were gym rats who constantly wanted to get better, both physically and mentally. Romo watched, listened, and learned. Witten was quickly in the mix because his talents were too visible to everyone to delay getting him on the field any longer.
You know, Jason was like married at a very young age, and so he was grown up and mature, and you know, I was just a kid, didn't even know any different.
Jason Witten came to the Cowboys married to his high school sweetheart, Michelle, and as Tony said, they were already grown-ups, kind and in love and starting a family. Tony was young and wide-eyed and cocky in a likable way, and ready for the world, only he had no idea what the world, much less Dallas or the NFL, actually had in store for him. So lots of nights that kid ended up at the Wittens on the sofa for sleepovers.
Michelle was like a pseudo mom at the time.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, will this guy ever leave? Right?
Yeah, I was probably that guy, to be honest with you. I was just looking for a friend. I was like, I know I'm an undrafted free agent. Does anybody like me? Anybody care? No, Michelle was, you know, they were great. We'd watch The Bachelor over at their house, I could remember, and just Michelle would, you know, lay a blanket on you, and I'd wake up on the couch the next day and be like, all right, let's go to practice.
I remember young Tony. I was playing some golf with him in his first few years. He was a kid who couldn't compete enough. Basketball, golf, football, anything to compete all the time. But the cool part is Witten, who has a wife, is hanging out with Romo, and they are developing this thing.
The reason we became so close is because neither one of us can lose. Like, I'll spend 82 straight hours trying to figure this one thing out. And if I felt like this could give me an advantage, I will spend all day, all morning, all night. Like, just, I can't take not being good enough, I guess you could say, but also just, I want to figure it out so that way I can overcome whatever around you is not allowing you to succeed, I guess you could say. And Jason's, you know, the connection happened because Jason has the same competitive drive that he can't take it if he's failing. And he will give you everything he has. And we're the same way with that. And that was really the connection early on. It was just that he could see my work ethic, I could see his, and it was just weirdly in a position like these two guys, if you had two people, you're like, they're gonna die before they don't figure this out. And that's where it started.
So Romo and Witten are bonding, but on the field at practice, Romo is the third string quarterback behind Quincy and then Vinny Testaverde, and then the next year behind Drew Bledsoe. If you look at Cowboys depth charts from 2004 to 2005, he's way down here, and Witten, they can't keep him off the field. Here's Romo on Jason.
As long as Jason Witten ever had anybody around that was any good, you couldn't double him unless you made a serious decision to change your defense. And they would do it in key situations. But when they did that, that means everybody else is one-on-one. That's how good Jason was. He really made other people so much better because Jason's Y option, it was unguardable one-on-one. He was too good with leverage, but he would make a guy feel like so much he's going this way. And then he would use that guy's, as soon as he felt that guy's leverage in any capacity, it's a really special gift to run the route correctly. But even deeper than that, Witten had this like, you know, sixth sense where he just could feel the leverage of where that weight of the defender is. And wherever it was, he would use it against him. And then he would get open.
So Witten is playing from the get-go. You couldn't keep him off the field. He developed Y option under Bill Parcells in his first year, and it began to take on a life of its own. Originally, Y option was called 62 Winston, and it was just a 12-yard hook route. When Jason Garrett came in and took over the offense, it was changed to Y option, but that's just semantics. Here's a part of that closeness that you know about. You know who really made Y option the unguardable thing it was for 17 years? Witten and Romo together in a film room, taking this simple play and adding nuances to it together. You heard the detail that Romo gave in explaining it because it was a collaboration of young teammates. So when Romo finally got his shot in '06, these two were ready.
My job was just to throw it to him, but my key at my position was that I could see what he was going to do before he did it. And so when I saw the leverage of the player, I knew it wasn't really his route I was looking at. I was looking at the defensive player and how he was trying to cover him, and it was over. I mean, as soon as I saw the leverage, every time it was like, I know what Witten's going to do. And I trusted him to make the same decision that I was seeing, and he did.
He did, because of the amount of time these two young men on a veteran Cowboys team spent in a dark film room, wanting to be great. But we know Witten got tons of first-team practice from the beginning. Romo was third string, getting scout team reps at best. Why was he so ready for all this from his spot on the bench? Here's Tony's dad, Ramiro, with a peek behind that curtain.
Everybody makes out to where the speed of the NFL game can sometimes be overwhelming, especially the quarterbacks. To process information, to know where to go, to do this and all that, is really hard. And you see that, these guys come in and struggle. Tony shared with us one time, he said, Dad, I got to practice with Parcells one day and we were going full bore, padded practice. And some of the guys were having problems. I never had that problem, Dad. The speed never bothered me one bit. I was like, oh, that's a good thing. The ability to process information was uncanny.
It takes certain gifts for an NFL quarterback to be special. Big hands, so you can really spin the football when you throw it. A fearless nature about all the men around you that want to kill you. But tops among the gifts that make NFL quarterbacks stand out, the ability to see what's in front of you and process all of it in a fast, calm manner. Then you make your decision, and few have it.
And so it's like weirdly our instincts and the way we saw it just aligned. And that's why, he's going to finish his career with, top 3, 5 in the history of the NFL in receptions, top 2 tight ends in the history of the NFL in receptions. I mean, just crazy, crazy numbers when you look at it.
NFL teams dream of these connections, these scenarios. Montana to Rice, Manning to Marvin Harrison, Staubach to Pearson. These duos elevate franchises all by themselves. So my question is, prior to 2006 and Romo finally getting on the field, how did he get better?
I think what brought them together is their competitive spirit. I was coaching the arena team when we met. When Tony was a rookie, he would come in there, they'd be in OTAs or whatever. And so after that, he wasn't getting a lot of reps. He would come into arena ball, into our practices. He knew nothing about it. I was coaching defense. He'd be like, hey, let me throw the ball. I just want to throw the ball around. And, you'd see his competitive spirit. And I saw him figure out the arena game very quickly. So there was the basketball kind of point guard in him because the ball had to be distributed quick and all those things. And he figured it out really quickly, and he wanted to come compete. And it used to piss me off because he used to sting us defensively. So I was trying to find a way to get him. So you could see that competitive spirit. Well, Witten would also come out there and hang out when Romo was out there, and they'd be, he'd be talking trash to the guys. The wisdom of Witten to also know hey, this guy's pretty good. Let me get on his good side. And, they established a connection. He got the ball and they became great friends. So I think it's the dominant personalities of both of them brought them together.
So Romo would go wherever there was a place for him to get some reps. Will McClay was cutting his teeth in the Arena League, and he got a close look. But isn't it interesting that Witten was still hanging out with Tony? But as Will said, Jason knew his guy was going to be the Cowboys QB long before the rest of us had a clue.
Jason was literally as beloved teammate, especially early on, of anybody, because he was so genuine and nice, and he did everything right. The first one at the walkthrough, the first one there in the morning, the hardest worker in the weight room, but he was also nice to everybody, and he could connect with everyone. And at that time, he wasn't trying to be this perfect leader or do anything that you would say, like, you do as you get older. Like, we all want to be this great leader for this team. An example. At that time, it's just who he was. Now, he was the same guy later. It was just now he had people who were trying to emulate him, and he needed to bring, the same as me. It's like you needed to bring your teammates along to do things the right way. Early on, it was just very, just the way he did everything was so correct. Everyone just, they wanted to they liked him.
Jason Witten, as you may have surmised, was one of the most perfect football players ever. Honestly, he was nice, mature, grown up, respectful, hardworking, a hard ass, and supremely talented. And when you combine all of that with his physical attributes and his discipline, well, he was going to be an all-time great, and he is. He stands 19th all-time in receiving yards, not for tight ends, for everyone. Who else were you thinking about for tight ends? Maybe Rob Gronkowski, 85th, Antonio Gates, 29th, and so on. How about all-time catch leaders? Witten is 4th for anyone who ever caught a pass. Not just tight ends, for everyone. Jerry Rice, Larry Fitzgerald, Tony Gonzalez, and Jason Witten, and that's it. He played 271 games, a record for tight ends, and here is more from his buddy Romo.
Well, Jason was so good from such a young age that he played a position that if we lost, he didn't lose. In other words, he plays tight end, and he's so good at that. I mean, as good as anybody who's ever walked. And so if we ever failed as a team, no one's ever pointing a finger at Jason for a reason we lost. So very seldom did Jason ever lose the individual battles. And then on top of it, he only helped your team have a chance to win. So if you had a Jason Witten on your team, I mean, I would argue there was never a time on a Monday we came in and was like, Jason kind of cost us that one. I mean, that never happened. He was a big reason why we literally had an opportunity to win a lot of games.
Tony, you were best friends. Why was Witt too good?
Bill was very tough on him. And it's funny because as I got older and saw a million different coaches, Bill was probably the toughest on Jason that any coach would ever be, but it also kind of set a base for Jason of a standard of excellence, I guess you could say, that he kind of held himself to based on what Bill would say. Bill treated Jason like, oh, you're everybody's All-American, you know, you're just the golden boy, you know, kind of thing. And I think it really helped Jason from perspective of there's just another level, and there's another level, and you would never feel satisfied. And that's a great thing for a young player, because Jason was so good so early. I mean, right away, he was a dominant player in the National Football League. And he wasn't even starting his rookie year, but year 2, he's in the Pro Bowl.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Love Bill Parcells or hate him, he developed players. Romo, he held out until year number 3 because he just didn't want to get him crushed. He was from Eastern Illinois, for goodness sake. He hadn't ever even seen athletes like those in the NFL. Witten was from the SEC. He was much more seasoned for what the physicality and the speed of the league was going to look like. And Parcells handled both of them differently and perfectly. So Witten came on quickly, and you were making progress behind the scenes.
Now that I'm older, I kind of see the signs are very similar in anything you do in life, but I just knew I was getting better and improving. And I felt very bad I wasn't good enough. Soon enough. Now, granted, I just started really playing football a couple years before then, so it's like I've softened when I've gotten older, because I'm like, I just know the progression of what it takes to really be an elite player at a very professional high level in anything. And it just takes reps, experience, and then it takes a dogmatic approach and almost a practice that's so finite that you start practicing really technical things that others aren't. There's fundamentals for each little individual, situation in football.
In the NFL, you can look out there as a player, and especially as a quarterback, and it sort of looks like Star Wars. There's a lot going on. But Tony made an impact in his first season, and the Cowboys went to the playoffs and were winning. They were going to win a playoff game in Seattle. Romo put the team in front of the goalpost for a short field goal to win. He was the holder, too. It was outdoors in Seattle, and it was cold. And if you have ever put your hands on an NFL football, they are huge and hard. And when the snap came to him for a simple field goal that he had executed thousands of times, he dropped the snap. The Cowboys lost 21-20, and the bloom was off the rose for Romo and for Parcells in Dallas, who took the loss so hard, he decided to quit.
I felt bad for Bill because he was retiring, because he knows he had an opportunity to get somewhere. Now, I really don't think I was good enough to overcome the next game or two at that time. I just know my abilities weren't to what they would become. But I go into his office with Jason and I said, "Coach, you have to stay." He's like, "No, guys, you're gonna be fine. It's gonna be great. Enjoy coaching with you, da, 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 da." I said, "You don't understand. I'm gonna be way better next year than I am now. I promise you, over the next 6 months, I'm gonna," like that deliberate practice I just talked about. It's like, I feel bad that I let you down, but I can promise you I'm going to be a different player going forward. Trust me, you want to stick around, and I'm trying to talk him into it. And I just, I had that belief, but I also knew practice-wise I do it a hair different than other people.
So Romo is trying to convince Parcells not to quit. "Stay," he said, "please, because I'm just beginning to understand what it takes, and I know how I will approach getting better." Because in his entire football life to this point, he always got better. Here's Ramiro Romo.
During all of his born life, my wife and I would attend games. We'd go and watch him play. We'd see him, and he'd lose and didn't play very well. Come back in a car. We'd drive back home. I said, "Well, you got to learn from this, if you want to get better. But you know what? Did you look at yourself? Did you try your hardest? Did you try to do your best?" And he wouldn't answer, but he would look inside himself on stuff like that. And my wife and I would look, he played well, he did good. I mean, that's as good as he can be. He can't be any better. Wrong. Next week we go back, same situation, another level. Every time he had suffered through a defeat or a failure or something, he went to another level.
Well, it took Tony a couple of more years to get to a level of excellence like Witten, but Parcells thought he needed those years. And obviously, Tony, all these years later, agrees. But he got there. So back to Romo and Witten trying to convince Big Bill to stay.
And he literally looked at me and he kind of smiled a little bit, because he knew I was like talking his language, and that's part of what would bring him back, is knowing we'd win for sure. But I don't think he was 100% certain. I think he thought he got the best out of our team maybe he could. And he's like, it's gonna be so hard to get our team back to that level. And I wanted him to know, I'm like, it doesn't have to be you working this hard. It's like, I'm going to improve, I promise you. I'm sorry I let you down. I think he kind of like inside, I think he likes that because he's like, that's who he is. He wants the ball. He wants to be competitive. He wants it to matter. He wants it to matter to you. And that's also why I connected with him. Same way with Jason. And he's just like, I understand what you're saying. I think you're going to be just fine, Tony. But he said, but I'm done. It's time.
Bill Parcells never lasted anywhere very long. Like Jimmy Johnson before him, about 5 years is the point of boredom and frustration. It's all that they can really take, intense head coaches like that. And it's often all that an organization can take as well. Coaches like Parcells wear everyone around them out. So intense, so demanding, so perfection-driven, and so arrogant.
Even Coach, while he was retiring, you'd think he would be overly positive 100%. Because he's leaving. So now he's going to be like, guys, you're going to be the best. You're going to be the best. But even when leaving, he's still like with Witten, he's like, listen now, Jason, if you don't get these false starts in line, I mean, this is going to be like really difficult. Like you can't become the player you're going to be if you're not, And this guy's a 2-3-time Pro Bowler already at the time. And he's like, and Tony, you need to And it's like, all right, Coach, well, we love you. But I think it is time for you to leave now that we're actually having to. No, he was so good that it was. Yeah. We tried to talk him into it, but he would never stop coaching, even when he stopped coaching.
I personally loved covering the Bill Parcells Cowboys. Bill was fun for us. Not for the players, but fun for us in the media. But we could also see the toll it took on him. His body, he went from thinner to heavier. His attitude went from sort of fun to sort of miserable. The truth is, he was miserable a good portion of the time, and he made everyone working for him miserable too. We were at the press conference when all of us knew he was done.
You know, I think we were a little inconsistent from time to time, but I mean, I know we have a better team competitively than what we had in the past. I know that. Fellas, I'm not into the State of the Union. After one of these games, come on. Did the best I could, okay? Wasn't quite good enough.
And with that, we all knew that as fast as the big tuna arrived in Dallas, he was now swimming out. In his first year, he used Quincy Carter at quarterback and made the playoffs. Pretty amazing. 2 years later, the defense had been made the way he wanted it to look, and by the end of '05, you could see the Cowboys under Parcells were on the rise. In '06, Romo's era began, and they made the playoffs again, but they lost, and Bill was gone. On to Wade Phillips, who the fans turned on very quickly because he was too nice.
There's a scapegoat, the media, the fans, people need to find something. And if something is just there that they see and they don't like, that's what's going to happen. I mean, whether it's the quarterback, the head coach, there's only 4 or 5 guys you can pick on, the owner. So Wade's personality was an easy thing because he wouldn't say it coming from a Parcells the exact same way, where it was demanding. Everyone wants demanding. The reality is that, like, you know, the soft-spoken coach is every bit as demanding sometimes as the guy who says it really loudly and aggressively. It just doesn't show to the general public always. I mean, Tony Dungy is as soft-spoken in front. He'd sit and wait for everyone to stop talking. But they won. And if you win, well, now you knew what to do. You're smart. You're great. It's just different personalities have been around forever in the NFL, whether it's quarterback or head coach. You can win many different ways. You have to be yourself. And at the end of it, if you do it perfectly from a media perspective and a fan perspective, you just get longer time if you're losing. If you're not perfect at all those things, your leash, I believe, is shorter when things aren't going as well. And that's really just what happened in some ways. Is things weren't going that well in 2010, I believe. And, you know, his quarterback was hurt as well. And he ended up having to take the fall for that. But I think Wade was a fantastic coach. And part of the reason we had 2 of our 3 best teams, you could argue, 07, 09, I mean, he was our head coach then. 2007 and 2009, Wade Phillips was our head coach. And 2 of those years were 2 of our best teams we ever had. Pretty good.
In actuality, Bill Parcells left because he wasn't sure there was more in this Cowboys team after the 06 loss in Seattle. Wade coached them in 2007 to a 13-3 record, and they were damn good all season, but they lost to the Giants in the divisional round. And just so you'll know, Bill Parcells coached the Cowboys for 4 years, and the team was 34-30. Wade Phillips coached them for 4 years, and the team was 34-22. Pretty good. Those 8 years produced 68 wins and only 52 losses. But playoff wins were tough to come by. That's why in 2011, the wild card playoff game against the Lions seemed huge. And it came down to Romo to Witten again, and the famous route that they designed together. I remember you saying he ran an unusual route or something along those lines.
We've ran Y option 1 million times. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be just crazy 1,000 times in games for sure. This specific coverage, specific way they've been playing him, I can't remember the last time he'd actually ran the route that way. I mean, really, you could almost take it back 5 years in practice was probably the last time he'd actually ran the route that exact way. And it came about where the play snapped and he's running up and our season's on the line. I mean, it's 4th and like 7 or 9 and we're in the playoff game. I feel like my legacy's on the line a little bit. I mean, you feel all these things when you go through that.
At this point in his career, Tony had played just 3 years, and he had gone 38-17 as a starter, a 69% win rate. Yet, only 2 playoff games and 0 wins. And as he said, he was feeling all of that. So here we go. It's the playoffs, and these 2 dear friends need a win. So at the end of the game, they trust Y option.
When I was younger, I would guess what Jason would do on that and just throw it because I knew I had to beat the rush. I can't take a sack, da-da-da-da. As I got older, it was like, even if I'm getting hit, I'm going to wait and make sure on this because my instincts are so fast, I don't have to rush it. So little things like that you learn. Well, Witten makes this move and he goes out. Well, the defender's on the inside, which means he's going to break out and give you a throw. But the defender was smart enough to basically almost bait Witt and say, I'm going to pretend like I'm on the inside. So when you break out, I'm going to run underneath and go intercept this pass. And so Jason goes up and he's on the inside of Jason, but he's playing underneath him. So he's not on top of him protecting the touchdown. He's got safeties over top. He's underneath him. And so when Witten breaks out, he's going to run and undercut it and I'm going to throw it. He's thinking he's going to get intercepted, but he just knows the route's coming. And he's seen this route 1,000 times. So he's baiting Witten. The problem is he doesn't really realize that Jason weirdly senses that with his just next level. Well, when a guy's on the inside, you break out. When a guy's on the outside, you break in. But Witten just weirdly had that knack for seeing what I'm seeing, and I'm like, oh God, this guy's baiting Jason. And I don't want to get off him but I would because I'm like, this is no good. But your season's on the line. I mean, this is like, I'm going to trust Jason can feel the same thing. 100%. And I sat there and I waited and I said, I'm going to trust Jason that he's seeing the same thing I'm seeing. And sure enough, Jason fakes out and that guy goes, shoop, like he's going to intercept it and win the game and da-da-da-da. And Witten comes right back to the middle. And I'm like, come on, Jason. Oh, yes, boom. And Ndamukong Suh's hands in my face. I'm about to get hit by him.
You're one-legged.
And I'm one-legged because it takes an extra, half a second.
Tony was scrambling. I could see him, double pumping the ball, kind of waiting on Witten. And you saw the leverage and everything else. But again, it's like that alley-oop to Shaq or whatever. It's like the impossible happened at that time because of their connection. And that, that's a unique part of the game that people don't get when they talk about sports and they talk about, why didn't he throw the ball to this guy or why did he do that? why did things happen? It's a unique experience of sports and the relationship of being in the locker room and that synergy, that's where you get those big moments.
And it's a classic trust.
It was Magic and Kareem. It's Kobe and Shaq. It's like they understand each other. It's like twins almost. They almost say the same thing at the same time. I think it's that reaction of being through it so many times, and then I think it's a byproduct of sleeping on the couch and Witten telling him, no, you don't eat pizza, and they felt each other, and it was a unique deal.
He ran such a unique, special, perfect route. And then the key to it is that I trusted him because he's that good of a player. I didn't get off him. And almost any other player I've ever played with, if that was the same coverage, technique, I would have been off him and onto somebody else because I'm like, I wouldn't have trusted him to make the right decision, on a route like that. And you just were like, if we're going down, I'm going to go down with someone I believe is going to, do it perfectly, and he did it, and it was a wonderfully executed route.
And it sounded something like this.
4th and 6, season on the line. They cannot go for this. They can't. They're going for it. Ball to Detroit, 41. Romo backpedaling, buying time. A flip over the middle of Witten. The 40, the 35, the 30, the 21-yard line. Witten on the loose. What a brilliant play. What execution.
A monster play that was a gutsy call by the head coach to go for it at all, and it came down to two veterans who were of one mind. The Cowboys won that game. Romo and Witten had plenty of those moments. Tony had lots of moments. He was a roller coaster ride to watch, and he entertained us at all times and won lots of games. He was so fantastic to watch and almost always honest to a fault.
Me being honest hurt our football team.
You think?
Well, it wouldn't until it did. So it's like, it's always fine, it hurts your team. So it's like, well, you don't really I'm not trying to be more famous, you're not trying to be more, you can't talk people into anything, you're just answering questions, there's nothing, so you really do it, and it's like, I'm just trying to be normal if someone was asking you a question. Problem is, when you're a leader of a football team, you have to protect that team, because when you say things and it comes across, or things, it could hurt your football team, if it's misconstrued or written incorrectly, which happens a lot. It's not that you didn't say it, it's just the context they put it in. If they just splice something up, if you took 7 words out of the 21 you were saying in a sentence, you could make it sound like anything. And that happened a few times where it was like, this just isn't beneficial to our team. And I found real quickly, it's like, it doesn't really matter what you say, it's what you do. It's how you perform. And so I was like, let's just be a little bit more intelligent about how we communicate with the media, and then, I'll retire one day and then we'll be normal.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with United Ag and Turf. Before you can park yourself in front of the game, park yourself in a John Deere and power through your chores. Our Land Run package is a 1025R, 25 horsepower tractor with a loader, rotary cutter, and a box blade for $229 a month. And the price you see is the price you'll pay, no surprises. So don't miss another kickoff.
Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com. Offer ends February 1st, 2021. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Now let's get to work.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar and a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. and a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
As you've already had a glimpse of in this story, Tony was raised by Ramiro and Joan Romo. They've been there for their kids every step of the way, supportive, honest, and kind, and Tony is all of those things. So when we in the media asked questions, especially early in his career, we got honest answers. But the fans, they don't want to hear honesty. They want the right answer every time. Better to lie to them than tell them the truth oftentimes, or just give everyone less. And I'll tell you, when that happened, it wasn't nearly as much fun, but maybe it was better for the team. Teams are fragile. Jason Witten became great at saying the right thing at the right time as he got older.
He would repeat what Coach said in a morning meeting 3 hours later, and it would get across to the media and the team. It was just a great, deliberate approach to get this point across to our team. We need to be tougher this week. And if the coach says it in the meeting and he says it in the media, that was a great way to be a leader, and sometimes was to communicate the coach's message. And Jason did that, as well as anyone.
Witten had that coach's approach anyway.
He's actually more like the coach who put his arm around you and be like, hey, I know it's tough, but come on, let's do this. Like, I think sometimes he was never gonna shut F up, da da da. He wasn't gonna do that, until literally his last couple years in the NFL.
Veterans who have played a long time, especially if they don't have a ring yet, can get salty with young pups who come in green and start yapping instead of working. Even one of the nicest guys ever, but Witt was known to get fired up after he scored a TD.
When he'd catch a touchdown though, or something like that, then he would be like, you can't guard me, it's it, it's over. So I mean, those would be the only times he'd ever actually get on people. But I think he just slowly developed, and what happens is you get success and you weirdly start to be like, okay, I'm being more empowered by my coaches and my teammates. They want me to do this. And so then he started to just kind of take on that role.
From day one of his career, Jason Witten set a bar for everyone. By year 10 or so, he had carte blanche to speak his mind to the other 51 or so guys in uniform. But from day one on that bus with 20 seats, when Witten sat by a nobody from Eastern Illinois named Romo, these two have been examples of what being a Dallas Cowboy is supposed to mean. Jason.
We became a friend, we grew, we became men, we became husbands and fathers, and just a great relationship.
The Wittens befriended Tony Romo from the start. He needed it, and it turns out it's what Jason and Michelle do. They help people, they love, and they give back all the time.
They care so much about doing things the right way, helping others. I mean, it's just the community, because Michelle is every bit as great as Jason is on the field. Michelle is that great off the field. I mean, they're two really special people, and their kids, they got like 14 of them now.
Well, it's not really 14, it's 4. Tony, do you know all those kids' names?
Cooper, CJ, Hadley, and Landry.
Nailed it. Can you imagine thinking about your career without having had Jason Witten?
I wouldn't want to. I think Jason, like I said, Jason made everybody better. No different than, hopefully I did that for a lot of people. That's what you want to do, is be like, wow, I was better because this guy was here.
I'm pretty certain that Tony and Jason feel that way about each other, and that players and coaches were happy to go to battle with each of these men. Any final conversations between you two guys that you can share with us now that it's over?
Me and him talk all the time. We wanted to win a Super Bowl, we wanted to do all these things. At the same time, you can't accept failure. The problem is failure in football is based on 1,000 factors. It's not just one guy.
Think about the things that happen in a 60-minute NFL football game. Great plays, bad calls, injuries, weather, coaching decisions, execution, lack of execution, forgetting plays and assignments, not to mention people on the field playing who have worries of their own at home or are playing through injury. So many things. Most that we as fans don't consider. We don't want to. Just get it right and win. Romo and Witten have been wildly successful, yet there are plenty who might say they have failed or that they were unlucky. Maybe Dez catching a ball that was called incomplete, or Creighton dropping a pass, or a cold ball on a short field goal in Seattle. On and on you can go. But Tony doesn't ever go there. He was raised better than that.
I wasn't given a raw deal anyway. Are you kidding? I'm very lucky. The Lord's blessed me tremendously with everything in this life.
Sour grapes? Nah, there is no sour grapes. No such thing, can't be.
I feel bad when I see just how hard life is in general, left and right across this world. And I feel like I got super lucky that I got blessed with certain gifts and certain things. At the same time, anybody who tells me like, man, you got blah, 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 but this, can you believe that happened? I'm like, are you kidding? Let's be honest. Look at the bigger picture for a second. I got lucky. At the same time, those things just have a way of being even. As your career and everything plays out, it's just even. Like you get some breaks, some go against you.
Dez did make the catch.
Some go with you, but they just have a way of being even. You just need a lot of good people around you in the NFL. It's not an individual sport. Quarterbacks get all the credit or the blame, regardless of what you want to say. But in reality, it's just that guy controls a lot of it. He gets the ball at the end of the game. That's when you got to go perform. If you get a chance to go win the game at the end, that's where the narrative is made. The rest of the game, though, the football team, the people around you, your coaches, schematically, all these things matter. I mean, it's bigger than that. And I think Witten's one of those guys that we talk about. He gave us an advantage. And that's really when I look back, I'm like, if you gave your team an advantage every week that you were out there, home run. That's the people you want on your team.
And it didn't hurt you that you guys had this special bond, too.
It made it easier for me to play. It's why I trusted him with the season on the line.
More than once.
Oh, many times. I think many games. It wasn't just a playoff game. It's like when the game got tight, the ball was going to go to Witten. And that's when you know you're a great player.
Tony mentioned that quarterbacks' legacies are made when they have the ball in their hands at the ends of games. From 2006 to 2016, known for our purposes as the Romo years, Tony was the NFL's best quarterback in the fourth quarter of games when the score was within 7 points, the best. In those situations, he threw for right at 65% clip and an 8.6 yards per attempt with 42 touchdowns and only 18 interceptions, a QB rating of 102.5. Aaron Rodgers was next at 101.2 and Peyton Manning was next at 99.5. In playoff games, of which he and Witten both knew there weren't nearly enough, he tossed 8 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. It was a glorious career, and it was so damn much fun to watch Romo and Witten. For those who loved Romo and wanted to see him end with something glorious for all of us, 2015 saw 2 different collarbone breaks. In 2016, it offered a back injury in the first preseason game of the year in Seattle. 10 grueling weeks of rehab that year, and he was ready to get back on the field. But the Cowboys, now led by Dak Prescott, the rookie, were 9-1 in the midst of an 8-game winning streak. Maybe Dak could have used another year watching Tony, and maybe the Cowboys would have gone further in the playoffs that year with Romo at quarterback, but we will never know. There was definitely a lot of teeth gnashing over what to do at QB. Ultimately, Tony Romo stepped forward to diffuse the tension on a really good football team.
To say the first half of the season has been emotional would be a huge understatement. Getting hurt when you feel like you have the best team you've ever had was a soul-crushing moment for me. Then to learn it's not 3 or 4 weeks, but 10 is another blow. And through it all, you have a tremendous amount of guilt on having let your teammates, fans, and organization down. And you ask yourself, why did this have to happen? It's in this moment that you find out who you really are and what you're really about. You see, football is a meritocracy. You aren't handed anything. You earn everything, every single day, over and over again. You have to prove it. That's the way that the NFL, that's the way that football works. A great example of this is Dak Prescott and what he's done. He's earned the right to be our quarterback. As hard as that is for me to say, he's earned that right. He's guided our team to an 8-1 record, and that's hard to do. If you think for a second that I don't want to be out there, then you've probably never felt the pure ecstasy of competing and winning. That hasn't left me. In fact, it may burn more now than ever. I think you all know something magical is happening to our team. I'm not going to allow this situation to negatively affect Dak or this football team by becoming a constant distraction. I think Dak knows that I have his back, and I think I know that he has mine. Ultimately, it's about the team. I feel like we all have two battles or two enemies going on. One with the man across from you. The second is with the man inside of you. I think once you control the one inside of you, the one across from you really doesn't matter. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. Thank you, guys.
Romo wanted to play, but I have no doubt that discussions with his wife, his friends, and his parents led him to step up and do one of the more selfless things that you will ever see a professional athlete do. He stepped aside for the good of the team, for the fans and the organization, because his heart and his head told him it was the right thing. I wasn't ready to stop watching him, but the NFL is a meritocracy, and players are moved in and out many times based on their availability and then their success. Dak was available and successful. He was ready when called upon, just like Tony Romo was in 2006 when he replaced the veteran Drew Bledsoe. Romo and Witten joined many talented teammates over the years to entertain us all at the highest level. One thing neither of them ever did while I was watching was big-time anybody. But they were very famous. Here are two of the world's best parents, Joan and Ramiro Romo.
I think it was like 2009. We were in Dallas because we were always there to pick him up if he fell, and congratulate him. And so we went to all the games, and Romo says, "Let's go eat somewhere. Can we go eat at this place?" And he goes, "Nah." And then he picks another place, and he goes, "Nah, I can't go there either." And he goes, "Mom, Dad, I'm not sure that you guys know this, but I'm a celebrity." Let's treat him like a celebrity. He never acted like a celebrity, and his whole entire career, right?
Yeah.
It was just so funny. Mom, Dad, I don't know if you're aware of this.
That's when we started thinking, I guess he is.
I can't just go anywhere and eat. And we laughed so hard. We still laugh about that the whole way home on the plane. Remember, we were like, he is a celebrity. We keep forgetting that.
A celebrity indeed, but also the guy who stepped aside for Dak and who quietly spent hours and hours and hours at the Scottish Rite Hospital in Dallas visiting sick kids year in and year out. Not with any cameras around, not with any fanfare. He was just delivering smiles and hope, like he did for you and me, for Cowboys fans for 13 years. Thanks, Tony, and thank you, Witt, for letting us in on your magic relationship and your Cowboy lives.